My name is Olga Kotelko. I was born in Saskatchewan in Canada on March 2nd, 1919, and I took up a track and field when I turned 77, and I've been doing track and field championships all over the world since then.
Olga was a farm girl for many years in Canada. And living that kind of life, in which you're very physically active, was probably a real plus, but being involved in life and finding something you're passionate about. And she did, and she competed in her 70s, not thinking it would lead to much, and boy, it's led to quite a bit.
For an athlete to get one world record in a lifetime is an achievement. And I, in my age group, 90 to 94, I have 17 world records.
Olga is certainly exceptional in many ways. She didn't start her competitive athletics until she was in her 70s, which is pretty rare, and that's where 70s, 80s, and 90s is the age at which Olga's earned all her medals.
In my 15 years of competing in track and field championships, I amassed 24 world records, 674 gold medals, 21 silver, and 9 bronze.
I think one of the things we forget as we get older is that we can continue to stay fit, and we know that fitness is good for our brain and staying involved in physical activity, but we often come up with lots of excuses. And it's not that Olga doesn't have aches and pains. She has her aches and pains, but she also has tremendous motivation to compete.
It just came into my life. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into.
It's not that she is an athlete in one event. Most people specialize in one particular race or maybe two. She pretty much does everything from sprints to field events.
I played softball prior to that, a little bit, just social, nothing athletic, nothing too strenuous. When I was turning 77, I went into track and field because you throw a softball, and here you're throwing or putting a shot put, and as well hammer and javelin, and then I started sprints because you run from base to base in baseball, and then I took up jumping, and I thought to myself, well, gee whiz, I haven't jumped since I was 15 years old, and here I'm doing jumping, and I love it. I love all my events that I'm doing.
I had asked her last night if she'd ever pole vaulted, and I was surprised to hear that in her late 70s she was pole vaulting. I was pole vaulting as a teenager, and I can tell you, it takes a little toll on your body when you're flipping around in the air and trying to land in the pit.
I'm a farmer's daughter, so I've never stopped working. And to me, work is exercise. I do all the gardening. We have a big lot, and I grow vegetables. I attend aquafit class 3 times a week, and that's aerobics in the water. I as well developed an exercise program for myself. When I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and can't go to sleep for some time, that is when I do my stretch exercises, and it takes me an hour and a half to complete my program. And I include stretching, massaging, reflexology, the yoga exercise, which I believe is what keeps my body the way it is.
We were contacted by Bruce Grierson, who's a New York Times writer who's writing a book about Olga and her athletic feats. And he had broached the topic of whether we'd be willing to take a look at her brain in terms of both structure and function and her ability to do cognitive tasks, both paper and pencil and computer-based. So we thought this was an interesting opportunity to meet somebody who's very unique, and we often appreciate that, whether they're patients or unique in other ways. She did a variety of different MRI tests to look at brain structure, and functional magnetic resonance imaging tests to look at brain function, to look at hemodynamics. I can tell you, I have looked at the structural scans of her brain, and her brain does not look like a 90-plus-year-old. What happens as we get older is that the ventricles get bigger and the brain tissue gets compressed or gets smaller. She seems to have plenty of brain tissue. Her ventricles are a little bit bigger, but I wouldn't say exceptionally bigger than our 70-year-olds, and she's 20 plus years older than that.
Is that water?
She also was on our treadmill in the cave in a street crossing task that we used to scale up laboratory tests of the ability to multitask to a quasi-real world task, crossing a street with distraction.
You're an expert by now.
She did some behavioral testing. We have batteries of cognitive tests that test different aspects of memory and decision making, attention, linguistic processing, and we're able to compare her to people at different ages, and we're doing that now.
It's so silly.
I think we can learn a lot from people who are unique in many ways, and Olga is unique both in terms of her cognitive abilities. I can tell you that from spending a couple of hours with her, and my bet is we'll see that on the cognitive tests. Her brain, at least the brain structure that we've looked at thus far, looks pretty remarkable for someone her age. And it's always great to hear stories about people who have tremendous levels of motivation and compete and never give that up.
It's to stay healthy, of course. But I love traveling. I love meeting people. I love to make new friends, but it's so nice to meet old friends from year to year.
In fact, it was what was probably most impressive to me. Most 90-plus-year-olds take a nap each day. She went strong from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. In fact, seemed to have more energy than anybody else, including the students who were about 60-plus years younger than she was.
You survived my car.
It's exhausting, yeah.
It's not something that's hard. I'm sure you'll get to like to do all these things that I'm doing, but you have to try. You have to try. Start easy, moderate, and progress from there on. And do just as much as you can. Don't hurt yourself, don't strain, have discipline, and have control, and of course, help your body to heal. And this is how I help my bodies, by exercise. This is my passion. But exercise is very good no matter what you're doing, what your passion may be.
In the Olympics, we often celebrate youth, and Olga certainly suggests, I think, her ability to do what she's been able to do, which is pretty remarkable, is that we can be very active and be competitive throughout our lives. We're often not, but I think we can be. And we do have senior Olympics, it's just they don't get the press coverage. But in some ways, I think it's as remarkable or more remarkable than a 25-year-old competing, that we have a 90-year-old still competing.